here to drill down on all of these issues, former Commerce Secretary Carlos Gutierrez. Mr. Secretary, it's great to have you back. Welcome.
Pleasure. Thanks to be here. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Do you want to kind of offer any context on, and some weren't sure if Trump was referring to actually the H-1B program, but either way, on a couple of things where he could have gone, I guess you'd call it full MAGA, the issue of the speaker and the issue of immigration, he seems to be siding the other way.
You know, it's an interesting point because if you think about the America First doctrine, the question, of course, the screen should be what is in America's interest? What is in our best interest? And I think the H-1B program is in our best interest. Do we want the world's best talent? Yes. So, you know, opponents to immigration used to say it's not fair because we're taking the high-skilled people from countries. Well, we're thinking about America first. So I think it's very consistent. We're only talking about 65,000 visas out of potentially 30 million in that category. So, look, the analogy of a sports team, I think, is very appropriate. Do you want the best people on your team to continue to win? Yes, we do. Yeah. So I just think this is an objective issue that should be thought about objectively and not emotionally.
So I thought it was interesting on the Panama Canal. You think he might have some basis here for the criticism? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. You know, when the treaty was signed in 1977, it was a different world. I don't think anybody could foresee back then that we would be in a geopolitical rivalry, in an economic rivalry with China, even in 1999 when the treaty took effect. So it's a different world. And I don't think it's unreasonable to demand that whatever happens in the Panama Canal does not go against the interests of the U.S. That is not an unreasonable demand or request. And so I think the president is right. You know, it's not what's happening today. There is no evidence that there's a military presence in the Panama Canal or in Panama. But the question is, what will happen in 5, 10, 20 years? The relationship between China and Panama has really just started in 2017 when China broke diplomatic ties with Taiwan and opened up diplomatic relationship with the People's Republic of China.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have to see it in that context.
So in that context, and as you've mentioned, this Chinese company, Hutchison from Hong Kong, operates 2 of the 5 ports in the Panama Canal. What should the U.S. do? Should they basically take a tough line and say that ought to be divested?
Well, you're right. Hutchinson has 2 ports throughout Hong Kong of the 5. And everything to this day suggests that they are abiding by the rules. They operate the port. Obviously, they don't own it. So I'm not sure that that's an issue, but I think we have to make sure that the guidelines, that the requirements look at what could happen in 5 years and 10 years and 15 years. Are they going to operate 3 ports, all 5 ports? So we need to look towards the future, but, you know, that's not an issue right now, who operates the port. But we need to think about where does it go from here?
Yeah.
You know, we need to think about the future.
So speaking on that point, I mean, are you concerned about the direction that Mexico is headed in, you know, kind of broadly speaking, between these issues, these ties with the Chinese, between the security situation at the border, kind of some of the problems it's causing down in the southern part of the U.S.? They do have a new administration, but a lot of this has been festering for 10, 20 years now.
Yeah, I think this is something that we need to take up with Mexico, not with China. And again, I think it comes down to Mexico, you're our neighbor. You shouldn't want something that impedes our national interest, that goes against our interests. Regrettably, a lot of what China does, a lot of what they have done, goes against our interests. And that's something that Mexico should be able to recognize. The question, of course, is, so what do we do? What kind of a negotiation do we put in place? What kind of an agreement do we put in place? I think it will have to be very selective. By industry, company by company, but it's the right time to bring this up because we need to be looking at what are the longer term effects, what can happen in the future.
Yeah. Secretary Gutierrez, thanks for your time today and for kind of giving us a sense of where things might be headed this year. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate
Carlos
it.
Gutierrez.